Hi everyone, welcome to this webinar on our next climate ready home up at Woodford. So my name is Ruth Nordstrom. I've also got Geraldine Petit here on the chat as well. So this house is 8.2 stars, and if you want any more information, it's on a number of different social media platforms. It's on Instagram, its very own page. It's currently for sale, so it's also on realestate.com. and also a website which is 8starhome.com.au. On the 8-star website you can also take a virtual tour with the renders that were done at that particular time, and currently now that it's finished we'll start uploading the real images also. So there's a number of different ways to get in touch with us so that you can come and see the home before it gets sold. So if you want to visit, give us a call. For real estate sales, give Christy a buzz as well on her mobile, and generally on the weekends she'll have it open. During this presentation I'll also have these little hotspot images that pop up on the map that kind of focus where I am in the building as we're walking through. But generally when you come into the building you'll find that it's fully automated, so there's lots of little tricks that you can do to find out how the house is performing, and that's on the ABB system. So currently we're just in the hallway of the building, and the hallway has this giant blade wall that goes through, which is the thermal mass. Allowing a lot of the winter capture of the light onto that wall, and essentially allowing us to distribute the heat that is actually captured in that wall towards the rest of the house. So the first part of this presentation I'm just going to talk through the programming of the house, tell you where the rooms are, essentially on why they've been put there, and then also briefly run over some of the materials that are in there, insulation of the walls and so forth. We're not going to go into the technical details down to the wire today. We have had other webinars which Geraldine has done, which has touched on some of the principles of the 10-star house, which are very similar to this house. But this is more aimed at people like homeowners, building designers, architects that just want to know how we achieved such a high rating in a very difficult site that didn't have much north aspect to the building. So we had no choice but to get the light through the top. So let's start this video going again. So I'll stop and start it as we go, so you will see my little cursor down the bottom, and feel free to ask any questions in the chat as well. So we're currently in the hallway looking at that thermal mass wall. There's also thermal mass in the floor. We have high level windows at the top that actually allow that light in. And the reason we've done this is because the site is only about 10 metres wide, and the whole of this northern wall here, the plan is facing upwards, north is the top, the whole of that wall there is actually a boundary wall, so there's no opportunities to get north facing windows in that particular spot. We're relying a lot on the east. And the design of the plan was such that we angled the courtyard to actually get that eastern morning light in winter, and occlude it more so in summer from the west particularly. So the high level windows are at the top. At the top of this point of the rake ceiling, it's around about 4.5 metres tall, so it's quite tall. And I'll give you a little bit of context as we go through. You'll see some images of some people in those spaces, just so that you can see how tall it actually is. But the reason we've done that is to actually aid the convection in that space. So as we're getting the heat, particularly in winter, on that thermal mass wall, and we're activating it, we're allowing that warmth to radiate out from that particular surface and start moving around these spaces. So this house actually has a HRV system as well, which allows us to keep all of this envelope fairly stable in terms of temperature, similar to the 10-star house. And in actual fact, when I was in there in winter before it was completed, it was still about 18 degrees inside, so very, very comfortable without a jumper, which is proving that this method that has been tried and tested overseas, we're doing it. A number of other people in Australia are doing it, having a highly insulated envelope, airtight, and adequately ventilated as well. So let's get this going a little bit further. So we've got the high level windows, as I said. I'm just going to turn the camera around so you can see the other direction. So the block itself is only about 31 metres deep, so 10 metres across, 31 depth. The back of the block actually has some retaining walls which go up quite high, so there's not a whole lot of usable space on this site, and it's actually quite typical of say a lot of the developments that are going through the eastern parts of Adelaide. I know living in Melbourne, very similar to the eastern parts of Melbourne, tiny little blocks and buildings all jammed in together. And essentially what we're trying to do on this is get as much daylighting in, as much ventilation around the building, and make it a very comfortable indoor-outdoor house on a very restricted site. So you can see there's a long view to the back of the house. We've got a dual breeze path in this house, so it not only goes east to west through from the front door to the back door, but also from the laundry through to the courtyard, allowing that to break up that space quite heavily. We do actually have a garage on this house, so unlike probably a lot of our houses that we've designed recently that have a carport, this one actually has a garage. Now typically a garage, when we're looking at the first rate 5 assessments, very much undo the performance of the building. In this case we've gotten away with it quite easily and still gotten the 8.2 star rating because of that boundary wall. That area is more isolated, more insulated because of the properties around that space, and it's allowed us to maintain the constant temperature throughout the rest of the house. Later in this presentation I'll also show you a air tightness plan which Geraldine did for the house that actually shows where she's actually run the air tightness layer to keep that particular space isolated. So in this house it's all electric, has electric vehicle charger, it also has the home automation, as I said, has a heat pump, hydronic heating in the floor, and the HRV system which is keeping the temperature constant. So we're just going to turn around here and look towards the other spaces. So part of the air tightness strategy that Geraldine implemented on this project is very much to do with the insulation in the walls, but also highly spec'd windows and the insulated front door as well, which I had not seen before. We've also, in terms of the programming inside of the house, added some little buffer zones. So typically on the west of a house you want to have parts of your building that can be either sectioned off and not sat in or not dwelled in for long periods of time, so we have transitional spaces. And we've done this on this design as well. So we've got north at the top of the page, and on the west we've actually got a little robe, which you saw, and leading onto the master bedroom. Garage is also on that side. So if we look around here a little bit more, generally on a lot of our walls we have, if I just rewind that a fraction, we have 2.5 in the walls generally in a lot of our houses, sometimes 2.7. I think in this house we ended up using the 2.7 Soundcheck insulation, the Knuff insulation, which also high density, yep, which also allowed us to deal with the noise from the street. So I haven't actually put any audio in these videos because as soon as you open the front door on these houses it's quite noisy from that particular street, but the door closed, you can't hear anything. Exterior walls, if I press play again, so you can see walking around the master bedroom, external walls are also heavily insulated but have these control layers which again, if you are needing to understand these terms a little bit more, refer to Geraldine's webinar that she did last year. But essentially what we've done is we've put the brick on the inside of this house so that we actually have the thermal mass on the inside. In this particular house, unlike the 10-star house, we've just strategically put it in places where either it will get daylight so it can actually warm up during winter, or where it made sense structurally and aesthetically. So we don't have it everywhere in this house. So in the master bedroom we've got it along the rear walls as well. along this space here. Bedroom 2, bedroom 3, and then we've also got the blade wall that goes through the house as well. There is a bit of a difference between actually the north walls and the southern walls as well. So we've got reverse brick veneer on the southern walls, but on the north side we've actually got the brick on the outside because in this particular instance there's two houses right next door to each other, and we had to change the condition for the fire rating. So that was quite an interesting process to go through. And hopefully just in a sec when we get to that part, the other diagram I'll show you as well. So we've used the timber framing with Extasana on the outside and Intello on the inside. So still in the master bedroom, looking at the robe there. We've got high level ceilings through some of these spaces, which makes this house feel very, very big on such a small block, and also aids in the airflow as well. So in winter we can reverse that fan if we so desire and push the air down, or the HRV system also assists in this manner. And that roof I think is around about 7.7, which is quite high as well. The other thing unique about this bedroom is that we actually have some cross ventilation that is available through the southern side of that building. So a lot of the breezes that we're getting in this particular development are from that southwest area, because it's highly developed around the other parts around the building, and so that's actually assisting it as well. One of the questions that we get quite a lot is the building has a HRV system. Can we open the building up? Can we allow this sort of indoor-outdoor lifestyle? And the answer is yes. The HRV is basically there to make sure that you can control the temperature and control the performance of the building during those peak times. So we have a little window that's facing west here. Well, unfortunately full of weeds just out front at the moment after all that rain that we had. And I'm just going to turn around in just a moment. So here we have a couple of the construction photos of that particular room. So you've seen it finished, but what happened before that? What was the method that we used? So in this particular photo it shows the thermal mass wall being put on the inside, and actually shows that there are some service cavities in this particular building. And we've used the Intello membrane on the inside for the air tightness. This building achieved, I think, 3 air changes per hour, which was well below the Australian standard. Around the windows they're also taped and sealed and spray foamed. And we also had a service cavity. So similar to the 10-star house, and the method that we're using across a lot of houses is that we'll actually have a service riser that allows all the plumbing and electrical work to essentially come into the building at one point. We can control it. The building performance is not being undone by all these different penetrations from the different services. So that actually just is in the master robe cupboard, concealed, so you don't even know it's there. So through the centre of the house, we've also focused on more or less exceeding the sustainability strategy that you would normally have just with a star rating and maybe air tightness. We've looked at the materials as well. I know for a lot of our clients that are after a low allergen environment, it's very important for us to focus on materials and the off-gassing of those. So in this particular house we've used raw timbers. We've also used some tapware that actually reduces the amount of chrome plating, or the particular chemical in the chrome plating, which has been proven to be a little bit toxic to the environment. So we're trying to make that ethical choice in the way that we do our interiors as well. So I've just put the camera up a little bit higher here to try to give you a sense of how tall this space is. So we're able to get above this bulkhead a lot of long narrow windows that actually get that winter light in, and then the eave above occludes the summer light. So we've done our daylighting studies on this also to assist in that. So you can see the fracturing of the light from that courtyard to the rest of the spaces. Although I've put the lights on for the show, generally when you walk into this house you actually don't need the lights on. And the advantage of the home automation is that you could be sitting outside or sitting inside, you can turn them on and off from your phone as well. So a lot of the interior finishes in this house are market ready. So although we've gone for a sustainable choice, they are very readily available. They're not necessarily overpriced. We have used low VOC materials in cabinetry. In the plasterboard is carbon neutral as well, just to make sure that we're delivering on our high level strategy for sustainability. Paintwork is also done with low VOC or neutral VOC paint from EcoColour. So looking back towards the front door, you can see that airtight door at the front. And this kitchen area, which has the transitional space from the bathroom and the technical areas and the bedroom, this is bedroom 2, to the kitchen area. So in designing this house as well, the other high level thought that we had at the beginning was I wanted to make sure that, especially because of the demographic of people that we get around this particular suburb, that it was available to people that might be multi-generational or having multi-generational living. So young families or students, people that don't necessarily need to see each other or need that separation, they could actually live in this house and have that separation but have this communal space on the inside of the building to actually sit and converse. So bedroom 2 is a little bit different because it's only got the one external wall window, so we actually put the skylight in, which is openable, which aids also the ventilation in that space. And looking through this space here, also has a rake ceiling, so it's very, very tall, again making this space look very, very large compared to what you would normally have on a 10 metre wide block. All the tiles are just a Belga charcoal tile from Beaumont Tiles, which are Australian made. And then in this cupboard, concealed is actually the heat pump for the hydronic flooring plus the hydronic floor manifold. This will actually have a panel in front of it as well. So again, part of what we're doing in this particular house is bringing that indoor-outdoor environment into a more social aspect through the centre of the house, and we can see that happening through the use of that courtyard and the very large sliding doors that we've got there as well. Let's keep that playing. To limit the view to those actual technical spaces to the rear, we've actually got a timber screen as well, which is just oiled. But you can see the transitional space is quite well lit, and so it's meant to have this hive of activity around it, whereas the front is less lit and therefore is a space that you're not dwelling in as much. The courtyard itself, although it's quite small, does feel quite big because of all of these windows around. So we actually have the kitchen here. So I'm currently standing actually on the seat on this side near the lounge room and facing downwards. So it's actually got a big double sliding door on this side plus a fixed glaze window which we can get the north light in onto the thermal mass floor and the transitional space, so it's nicely lit. We've also got this raised area at the back of the house, the lounge and the bedroom. So not only does this help in terms of having different people inside of the house or having that privacy that maybe a teenager might need, it gives a line of sight to other spaces within the house. So like when there are children in the house and they need a bit of separation, they need some privacy, but they need parents close, they can do that in this house. Okay, keep that playing. So up on the roof, we've also got a 5 kilowatt solar system. There's battery storage in this house as well. As I said, it's all electric. And considering some figures that I'll show at the end of this presentation from the 10-star house, this will either be low energy bills for the owner or neutral. The battery storage can actually also be expanded. So again, up in this backspace, I've put a little red dot there to show you where I'm actually standing, but there's raked ceilings up through this area as well to make the space feel a lot bigger. And you can actually see that there is, if I just rewind it a fraction, not too far, there are some little vents that are actually in the walls up here. Might have gone too far now. That's okay, I'm just going to keep playing it. So we've actually got some little vents in the wall here. So the distribution part for the HRV is actually through this technical space here, and then we have some little vents that actually have the inlets for the lounge, bedrooms and so forth, kitchen. Another strategy that we use on a lot of smaller houses is this rake ceiling that is super insulated so that we can have that volume and that space to make the place look bigger. You can see how tall that ceiling is. The motto on this house and the 10-star house is essentially to have the air tightness right, the ventilation right, and also have that amenity for space and light for people. So this is actually the air tightness plan that was done by the lovely Geraldine Petit. And basically it shows where she's actually allocated that air tightness membrane in the construction. So as I mentioned, on this particular house, because we had a boundary wall, the air tightness layer had to shift. So she's actually had to have it on the inside on that particular side, and then on the outside on the southern boundary as well. The air tightness control layer in terms of what we're communicating to construction also surrounds the windows. And so not only has she provided plans, but she's also provided these red line diagrams essentially in sections and 3D diagrams as well, which is super helpful. And there can be a little bit of training that is needed on site for a lot of these jobs. So as I said, the membrane that we have in this one is in Tello on the inside, and then we have Extasana on the outside, and I believe Mento on the roof, which were ProClima products. And Climasure came in both on this house and the 10-star house and actually helped with the installation and did some consulting as well. Okay. This is a typical section diagram that is used in terms of communicating that air tightness strategy. So a lot of the architects that come to us for assistance when we're doing our consulting side of our studio ask about this communication and trying to get the trades to understand. So it's a very big part of it. I'm just going to go up into the third bedroom now and give you a bit of a look. So once again, we've got a raked ceiling in here. Again, you know, this beautiful aesthetic that we can create in these spaces. Thermal mass brickwork, again, is a constant temperature because it's on the inside and the way that the building has been insulated. LED lighting, so the building is less hot overall because of the new LED lighting that is used throughout houses. This particular house has the hydronic floor, so because it's 8.2 stars, there is a certain level of comfort that we assume that homeowners might like outside of that 18 to 22 range, and therefore having the hydronic heating in that also helps, which was supplied by Stiebel. We have the Ocnolux windows in this particular project because they are double glazed aluminium thermally broken, and they're also taped and sealed and spray foamed around. Once again, having operable devices for ventilation in this particular house and in all of our houses is quite crucial. Okay, it just showed a quick snippet of it there, but if I just rewind just a second. Okay. So you notice on the wall I've shown a little switch, and the reason I've shown that, if I just pause it as it gets up to it, is one of the ABB switches. So we had ABB involved in the 10-star house and the 8-star house. So their system provides the home automation for the house and also allows us to operate the house in a way that hasn't been done necessarily before. So the purpose of this is also to make the house more accessible. We're not having to just get up and turn the light switch off. We can actually do this by our phone. And we can also get a lot of data from the house through having these sorts of automation systems. And I will show you a couple of screenshots that I grabbed from the 10-star house to show you. So that's what's great about these. If you're thinking that you might not have the same level of accessibility, or if this sort of construction method was used on aged care or hospitals or education or any number of buildings like that, then the home automation and control of that environment and linking into the HRV system is crucial. So you can see in the lounge here we've got the winter sun coming in, and then the summer sun is shaded via the vines in the courtyard. They have not grown yet, so I took this video the other day, so you can see where the summer sun is coming in, but the actual shading is only up to about this level here, which is good. That vine is growing. We've actually run that vine all the way over the top, and then it will run down this northern window here as well. So we've got a lot of potential through this particular space. So we've got the transitional spaces strategically lit. So again, you want to be walking around this staircase a lot more than what you would down near the bedroom. The bedroom has high-level windows to try to assist, and so we can bring that light in above where the glare factor would be if you were laying in bed. So LED strip lighting is used quite a lot in this house and the 10-star house, because it gives a nice uniform lighting rather than have wall lights everywhere, which can mean that you have dark spots in the room. So it means that we're having to use the lights less as well, which is quite nice. So there is actually another strip light, which you can only just see being illuminated along this area here, but most of this is actually being lit by daylight. Okay, so we're going to go down into the kitchen area as well. Yep, so the beauty of this particular design in the courtyard is that double door does open a lot. So you can basically have an outdoor summer dining area in this particular space, which would be lovely. I would love to live in this house. Also that privacy as well. Just at the end, yeah. Okay. Just going to move that along a little bit. Okay, we're going to turn around here. Sorry, I've had to stitch a few videos together to do this, but hopefully we get the idea. So coming into the bathroom, so once again that strategy of reducing the amount of chrome plating on things we've carried into this house as well. So it's a nice low toxin environment, low VOC. And all the cabinetry throughout does have that low VOC board in it, and all the paints are also low VOC as well. We've got a central hydronic heating panel where you can actually adjust the temperature of the floor. And this is going into the laundry. It's just a laundry, but it does have the HRV central unit in it, just up the top here. So we can actually bring the fresh air into the house even when it's closed, so at those peak times of year, and keep the indoor environment much more suitable. And then that HRV system and all the pipe work and the framework can actually go through above the bedroom 2 ceiling here as well, which you'll see in a later diagram, and allow us to distribute those HRV pipes nice and aesthetically pleasing as well. Yes, actually the HRV is actually really, really quiet. So I know in the 10-star house it's not fully turned on in this particular house yet, but in the 10-star house you can barely hear it when it's on. So rather than having that real buzzing that you get from normal air conditioning systems, it's very super quiet. Okay, so that's the manifold concealed in the cupboard. Close up that door. Daylighting in the hallway. Which is really beautiful to be around, actually. Yeah, so as I mentioned, this got 3 air changes per hour. It's more or less designed as a market-ready house, so it's well below the Australian standard. And also because it's got over 100k worth of other inclusions in it to make it that little bit more sustainable and operate that a little bit differently. It's a very, very nice house. So this is the information that is actually on the ABB Free at Home app that is on the phone. So I've taken a couple of screenshots for you, but you can see you can actually adjust things from your phone and operate the house. When the owner of this house links up to the Aurora website for the FEMA system, if I just go back to that one, so they can actually also look at what energy is being captured on any particular day. Because this particular house isn't linked up yet, I've just shown you what the 10-star house is doing currently since its operation, but you can see that the batteries are full most of the time. This was actually taken in the morning, so the battery hadn't had chance to fully charge yet. But you can see that with very, very little operational energy required to actually use the house in terms of its heating and cooling, these houses basically will just adapt and be quite stable, not only financially, but temperature-wise as well. Okay. So if you've got any questions, type them in the chat. I'm also going to bring over Geraldine to the screen. So just to introduce Geraldine also, a lot of you hopefully would have seen her in a lot of the webinars. But Geraldine is our lead construction design specialist, an absolute guru in my mind at what she does, and very inspirational. So I believe she has been answering some of the chat questions, but we'll bring her over and we'll have a little nosy at some of these questions. Okay, bring over your chair. Okay, so let's see what we haven't answered as yet. And please keep them going as we go through. So here's Geraldine.
Hi.
Like
hello, everyone. Thank you for the description, though. Yes, it's nice to see the question that Christian raised in the chat, and thank you, Ruth, for your presentation. It was great. She's modest, but she did a lot of the design of this house, and the quality of the design is inherent there and obvious. So thank you, Ruth.
That's right, they become our babies, don't they?
Yes, they are. Like we didn't have enough.
Yeah, like we didn't have enough babies. We've got two house babies.
So what's happened is, like Christian came with some interesting question about the home automation system, the heat recovery ventilation system, and also the energy consumption. So I will come back on the energy consumption. So this house is a 8-star, and the certificate is showing that the performance of it in the simulation is 40 megajoule square meter a year, which is, as Christian mentioned it, half of the consumption of standard 6 stars, even less than that, that would be some kind of standard on the market, or what the council requests in most of the places anyway. When the house next door is a 10-star home, and it's a pretty passive house, its consumption is only 3 megajoule square meters a year. So we can really see that the consumption of the house is excelling compared to a standard that is already higher than most of the construction here in Australia.
Yeah, so you can power 36 10-star homes for the same power as a 6-star house, which is absurd considering you think about the 6-star being the minimum. This is obviously 8.2 stars, so it's sitting in that middle ground, which Geraldine may possibly agree is probably a good point to sit. A lot of our houses kind of sit between maybe a 7 and a 9.5. Yeah. This is the only 10-star house that we've done, maybe the only one that we'll ever do.
The 10-star? Well, I hope it becomes a standard soon, but it'd be nice, we're not there. But we're ready. What's interesting with the 8-star though, it's a 90 mil stud construction, so there is a lot of mass in the building, and that acts a lot on the efficiency of the house. But basically, with a standard process of construction, good specification for membranes, and some added value in the windows or in the system of control, or a good passive design, then we can achieve a performance that is using twice less energy to run. So that's interesting to see that it doesn't change the constructive process to a completely different structure. Home automation, the aspect of the home automation in the house is interesting because that gives us a notion of accessibility to the building. I believe, Ruth, that you mentioned that already in your presentation. Yep. But the fact that we can actually have visibility on the energy consumption, the production of electricity, that we can control the house from everywhere in the world, and that also we can automate some aspect of the house, windows opening, and shutters, and also temperature and things like that are quite interesting, and give this house an aspect that is giving more accessibility to the population.
Yeah,
so
it's a more inclusive environment. I mean, maybe not this one with the step and the slab, but if this was to be replicated, the 10-star house or any of the other buildings that we've done, it makes it a more inclusive environment if anyone of any physical ability can actually get around that space. Yeah. And I've actually known someone who has lived a full life and then had an accident, and now has to rely on technology such as this to actually feel like they have that level of control and independence. So it's very, very important as buildings go on to have that inclusivity, but also to have the control of the energy. Yeah. There's a lot of social housing out there that just isn't up to scratch. I know you've worked on social housing overseas as well. Poor Geraldine, when she came to Australia, realised how far behind we are, but now she's transitioning us towards that point, which is awesome.
Yeah. Well, we managed to get some houses with really high performance, so there is some knowledge here too. Yes. So the home automation, and also in terms of security, like having this camera outside, because give you an opportunity to check, and also to make sure that the house is under control when you're not here. So that's some really interesting aspect now.
Yeah, it takes a photo of you as you come in, as you ring the doorbell as well, which is another added bonus.
Yeah, so just tell it to your teenager though.
Oh, yeah. And as you have the app on your phone, so I can actually operate the 10-star house, and if the 8-star was fully turned on, I could actually operate that from the office here as well. So as long as I'm connected to Wi-Fi, it works. So that's an added benefit if your kids leave a light on or something on before you leave the house, or you're leaving in that mad dash to school in the morning, as Geraldine and I probably have. Then you can actually operate that externally as well, which is cool.
Yes, and I will just come back also on the question about the heat recovery system. That's a really, really central point of those houses that doesn't act so much in the performance of the star rating, but give really a value to the house and go beyond star rating. Is that the heat recovery ventilation system is extracting air from the house in one point, and allowing fresh air to be constantly running in the house. So when we see the situation with COVID and what happened last summer with the fires, we realized that it's more and more important to actually have a sort of control on the air, to avoid smokes, to avoid pollution and things like that. So having these filters installed and controlling the air in and out is really beneficial to the population and the inhabitants.
Lower asthma rates and things like that as well.
And like we really underestimate the impact of indoor pollution in our houses nowadays, and it has been proved by some scientists that through a lot of study that it's actually a big cause of death in the population. So it's quite important to have this system that allow really a good level of oxygen and filtered air in the house, and also to control the temperature, but in a really soft way, so it's not noisy and it's not blowing air everywhere. So there is extraction of the air in the bathroom and kitchen area, and everything is balancing into the HRV system to give you a constant temperature with some in some other places, and extracting air in all the living rooms.
Yeah, and the reason this also applies to, as I said, a lot of other building types is, like, even during COVID, there wasn't enough fresh air in the childcare where my children go. They actually had to sleep them outside during winter. Yeah. So, you know, if only schools and the education system looked at building performance to address maybe behavioural issues and things like that, after working in schools, I've seen it, then, you know, the world would be a much happier place, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of minutes left by the look of it. What other questions do we have here? 6 high, we've done that. Free at home.
Yeah, I think the best things to do is to actually go on site and visit it, because there is nothing to replace like the feeling that you've got, the height on the ceilings, the mass of the brick and the thickness of the wall, the quality of the windows there. It's a real interesting experience, especially with the level of construction you've got here in Australia. It makes a huge difference. And if you speak with people that travel a bit in Europe, not all the buildings are great, but when you experience living in such a building, it's really hard to go back to another standard of construction.
Certainly is, yeah.
And so that shows the quality of living it gives to you.
Yeah. So we are very soon about to have the official opening of the 10-star house, and then also another event that'll be coming up where it's essentially speed dating Geraldine and I, which you can come in and discuss your different plans in a little 1-hour session. So please look out for that as well. Looks like we've got one more question.
Yes, we've got a question about the air tightness of the building. So what we achieve here with this building is just 3 air exchange at 50 Pascal. So that's a really good performance. That's still a good performance to run the HRV. It's not as airtight as the house next door that is a passive house and the passive design, and has 0.64 air exchange an hour. But it's showing a really good performance, and we've tested the building twice during the construction process, in the middle and at the end. So
yes,
it was satisfying.
Yeah, the other day also I noticed the skylight wasn't quite shut. Yeah. So it could well have actually gone lower than that.
Should we run a third one?
Yeah, I think we need to run a third blower door test.
All right. Yeah. And just to come back on the service layer, for the owner of the house, it's really an important aspect. If there is any modification done inside of the house in the long run, if you want to install some things on the walls and go through the plasterboard and things like that, because of the separation of the service layer with the airtight envelope of the house, it's a really versatile envelope to play with, and that makes a huge difference in a lot of airtight construction nowadays, when a lot of the performance is relying on the gypsum plasterboard. So just want to mention that there is a long-term vision of the building.
Yeah, which is something that we always do, as well as try to get that long-term health of the construction, so the building lifespan lasts a lot longer as well. So in terms of architectural sense and, programming the spaces, we can use typical wall details that actually look at these control layers so that we know exactly what's going to happen. It becomes a bit more predictable. And then, lessons learned from probably this house and the house next door is, how much brick do we actually need inside and to have it activated with the thermal mass. So there's lots of different things that we can play with. I will stress, as we do all the time, that both this house and the house next door are very contextual for those particular sites, whereas if it was done up in the hills, it might be a slightly different solution. So there's not one size fits all.
That's why it's still useful to have some designer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for joining us. But please watch out for our advertisements coming soon for the official 10-star opening. It is my, life passion to try to bring sustainable housing to a much larger or broader demographic than what it currently is. Something I know Geraldine is quite passionate about, and our studio certainly pushes that.
The whole studio is really
so it's very rewarding to us, speaking to you one-on-one about your designs and really pushing it forward. How can we hand-hold you through the process? So please get in touch. So thanks for joining us, and shoot us an email if you have any queries at info@suho.com.au. And otherwise, at the start of this video, I mentioned the real estate agent's name and her phone number if you're interested in sales of this house or the off-the-plan versions of this house and the one next door. So,
if you want some more information about the partner that helped us to put together this project and the one next door, there is a lot of information in the 10-star house you can find about the free atom system, the HRV system, the French table, a lot of partner and suppliers that has a really good quality product also help to put that together. So. And
collaborative partners as well, people that are willing to work together, which is awesome.
Yes.
So visit the astarthome.com.au website, which you'll actually be able to jump on the virtual tour and actually click on some of these nodes if you want to know a bit more about some of the products that are in the house, or visit the 10starhome.com.au website, which will also have other info. Thanks guys, thanks for tuning in. It was a good session, so get in touch. Bye.